Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Perspective. Today, of course, the PDM together along with the government has said that they have no confidence in the court at this time, the three-member bench that is to adjudicate on the important issue of elections on Monday, and they've also said that this will be conveyed to the court by the Attorney General. The ramifications of this development, along with, of course, we've also had the former Prime Minister Imran Khan Sahab come out and say that if the 90-day period is not followed, it will lead to more protests by the PTI as a political party. In the background of the current acrimony that we are looking at between the Supreme Court at this time and overall the situation that is being seen as far as the government is concerned, the opposition is concerned, also the judiciary as far as the Supreme Court is concerned, is of course the economic situation the country is in. We are also looking at the overall state of affairs, which we've had communication, which has been communicated to the court during this very important election case, whether we look at the funds being available or we look at the personnel being available to assist in the electoral process, all of that today on Perspective, and what kind of a situation are we seeing in the next couple of weeks. All of that today on Perspective. I have with me Mustafa Baloch, who is leader PPP. Thank you for joining us today. We also have with us Qaisar Sheikh from the PML-N. Thank you for being with us. And Irfan Ghouri, who is a senior journalist. Thank you for joining us. Mustafa, overall, of course, it doesn't seem like it's going to be a very peaceful time at this time, for the lack of a better word. Stability, of course, you know, we keep talking about the fact should be the order of the day. But when we are looking at, again, the opposition and the government at loggerheads about this issue as far as elections are concerned, and then in the middle of it, it seems to be the Supreme Court. How do you overall look at the situation? Do you think there's a chance that we can salvage some sort of cordiality at all?
Mahrukh, actually, I would say that the government is not in a mood to create more tense situation. The ball is definitely in the court of honorable judges, and they are the ones who have to decide that whether the country would go towards tranquility or towards anarchy. Because the suo motu case has already become a controversial proceeding, as you have seen honorable judges like Justice Mandukhail and Justice Mansoor Ali Shah, they have excused themselves from hearing this proceeding, and the bench has already broken. So the bench with like a minority judges, like 3 judges, they are going to give a decision which is maybe not acceptable for the people of Pakistan, and it's not about the government, it's about the people of Pakistan, because this judgment will not affect one person or a group of people, it will affect the whole country, it will affect the democracy.
But Mustafa, this is exactly what the opposition is saying. They're saying that if you don't hold the elections within the requisite 90 days, it's going to affect the whole country.
But Mahrukh, the question is why was the suo motu not taken on the point that why both these provincial assemblies were dissolved? What was the need of dissolving both the assemblies? Rather, it would have been better that Imran Khan would have been called in Supreme Court and he would have been questioned about that why have you brought the country into this anarchic situation where you know, there is obviously a constitutional crisis going on. So
okay, let me come back to you. I'll go to Qaisar Sahab. Qaisar Sahab, can you hear me? Qaisar Sahab?
Yes, I can hear you.
Qaisar Sahab, overall, as far as the situation is concerned, we've just been talking about the fact that things are not looking good for tranquility, for what, you know, for there to be stability in the country. Unfortunately, the kind of situation that it's coming down to, again, the opposition and government, you know, there starts some kind of, you know, there talks between the government and the opposition, and then invariably fails. Do you think there's a chance at this time, at this juncture in time, when you as a government, as the PDM together are saying you have no confidence at this time in the superior judiciary, the 3-member bench that's adjudicating on the election issue, and the opposition saying that if it doesn't happen that way, it's going to start its protests again? So how are things, isn't the government going to try and diffuse the situation at all?
Mahrukh, it is obvious that political forces have to sort out this matter. In other countries also, there is an example that the things, differences between the political parties and the political matters doesn't usually go to the superior courts. Our case, because we don't have interaction between us, we have been advocating since long. PML-N has been advocating to come to the table to have some negotiation to find out some solution, economical, political, and then now constitutional. So these things have to be sorted out. I mentioned many times on various occasions. You see, only to have enmity between the parties, it is not. There is no solution like it. Even the superior courts, they have been emphasizing that the political matters should have been resolved in National Assembly or in otherwise some other forum, the mutual accepted forums. So this is unfortunate, and I think this are not going to be resolved.
You are talking about it being resolved in the parliament, which is the ideal situation, and one, of course, always hopes that there is a solution that lies in the parliament. But first, you have an opposition that is not in the parliament at this time. As far as the Tehreek-e-Insaf, the PTI is not in the parliament. Secondly, of course, they've dissolved the assemblies in Punjab and KP. Thirdly, at this time, the law that you are in the process of passing, it's obviously what the will of the parliament is. But then on the other hand, you have a judiciary that seems to be saying the opposite. Am I right?
No, the judiciary, the superior judges, they have been saying that our party should resolve this political matter, then they should not bring to this forum of judiciary. But in any case, they have to, if there is some legal matter, the judiciary has to come forward and they have to give some judgment. But now the matter is that our party has been vigorously advocating that there should be a full bench of the Supreme Court. But up to now, it has not been agreed, and now there is a three-member bench is there. So, at any cost, I think the Chief Justice himself mentioned that on Monday he is thinking to have some solution of this. I feel that some good thing will come out, because otherwise, if the things are like that, it is enmity between the parties. Like you see, our Interior Minister mentioned that either we are there or the Imran Khan is there. So this sort of thing, and PTI is never coming to the negotiation table. So eventually there has to be some resolution, even if some decision of the elections are held. I think the elections, of course, every party agrees that the election should be held in time. But the problem, even elections are held, some amicable solution or outcome of that will have to be settled between the parties. If the election results are not agreed, as has been the point since many elections.
Exactly. So even if you're saying that even if the elections are held in this environment, we will see, again, this, one party will not accept it and the other party will say. So there needs to be some kind of political dialogue. And you are saying you're hopeful that it might still happen. I'll come back to you. I'm going to go to Irfan Saab. Ji, Irfan Saab, can you hear me?
Ji, Assalamualaikum.
Ji, Assalamualaikum. Irfan Saab, you're looking at the situation at this time where, of course, I mean, we all hope what Qaisar Saab is saying does happen. He is hopeful for a solution also from the Supreme Court, but he also is saying that there might be some headway with dialogue between the opposition and the government. Do you think there is still a possibility with the PDM and the government categorically at this time saying that they're not, they have no confidence in the bench? Therefore, essentially saying that the three senior judges, including the Chief Justice, who are part of this bench, they have no confidence in them, in all three of them. So in this kind of a scenario, and it doesn't look like they're going to get their full bench. So what do you see as far as the situation is concerned?
Yeah, Mahrukh, unfortunately, the wisest among us, they have also succumbed to this current turmoil. And credibility and integrity of the court being undermined. And we all know that a court is divided, and which is, obviously it looks like that. We wish that these differences were just purely academic and philosophical nature, but the way the things
But it's
have
one for
been
the books,
happening
definitely.
for the last few weeks, it seems that the court is clearly divided. In such a situation, either, and as you mentioned in your intro and also in your question, that position they have openly now said that, three-member bench, they will not accept actually if the three-member bench continues with, as we have seen that earlier the two judges, they have recused themselves. So in such a situation, either the dialogue is one option, as one of our panelists has mentioned, or the full court, that can be an option. Because a divided judiciary, a seemingly divided judiciary, cannot serve as a check to executive or executive and legislature, and it would be unfortunate, if the court goes with something and comes up with order, and the government says that we are not going to implement it. In such a situation, there will be a larger. Already, we are in a judicial and in a constitutional crisis, so it will exacerbate if that happens.
Let me come back to you. Ji, Mustafa, but of course, it seems to be a difficult situation, which is what Irfan Sahib is saying. Are you hopeful what Qaisar Sahib is saying, that, he's saying perhaps there can be some headway with dialogue, because ultimately it seems to be the only solution at this time?
I hope so, and I think the only solution which, in my opinion, should be is restoring both the assemblies, Punjab and KP assemblies, and give them the same date of general elections. I think that would be a win-win for both the opposition and the government. And I think...
Do you think that's a possibility, restoring both the KP and
the Supreme
Punjab?
Court can do that, and we have a history of such kind of decisions where assemblies have been restored, and on the largest interest of democracy, the Supreme Court, Honorable Supreme Court, can do that. But what I would like to say that, Mahrukh, it's not about the government which is creating, a battle of ego. It's something coming within the judiciary.
Okay.
You have seen senior judges who have, given their dissenting notes, and Justice Faizisa has also given, a statement about it, and they have come up openly. So that's something which our Honorable Chief Justice should reconsider. And the demand of full bench is nothing illegitimate. It's a genuine demand.
But it's also discretionary, right?
And it's something which has happened earlier, and it's about a larger issue. It's not about a small issue. It's about a very big issue which has already created, before the decision has been announced. The split within the judiciary has come up, and the country is already waiting for the decision, and you can see the economic situation in Pakistan is also day by day, it's getting deplorable, and we can't afford such kind of polarized decisions and such kind of anarchic situations where things go out of our hand. Then it won't be in the hands of the politicians also to solve it. And talking about parliament,
but Mustafa, let me interject here. When the Chief Justice has said, he has said, I think on a number of occasions, that let the opposition reconsider. He said that the parties should try and talk. That's not strictly his mandate. I mean, there are opinions on that, but he has, in the interest of democracy, it seems, tried to gear things towards that, but that hasn't really happened.
But that's a problem. Has Imran Khan even tried to talk with his political opponents? No. Imran Khan has a big ego, and he is, I think so, he has in his mind that he has already won the general elections, and he is the next Prime Minister of Pakistan. So this is the problem. He should come and reach out to the government, and he should, because he has said all these things, and he has accused the sitting government with a lot of things, and he has created this polarized environment, so he is responsible for this. And if he thinks he's a statesman, then he should come forward.
Okay. Qaisar Sahab, Mustafa Sahab is saying that Imran Khan Sahab should come forward. It should be a move by him to try to come to some sort of an agreement, some sort of dialogue with the government. It seems highly unlikely that will happen. Are there talks in process at this time? Can you confirm this? Is there a move to diffuse the situation by the government? Of course, I mean, you have the mandate. Why can't the government be the bigger person here?
Up to now, Imran Khan has insisted on his point, and I think he should, all the parties involved should should not be so egoist. You see the political, our economic problems here, and it is not a recent phenomenon. Even before this government came into power, it was mentioned on various occasions that the economy is already in default. It is Shabar Zaidi, who was the chairman FBR from PTI. He mentioned before induction of this government that our economy is on the verge of default. So the main problem is that people are facing problems. Inflation is so high, and it is not a matter of ego now. This is Imran Khan, if he feels that at any case his thinking should be prevailed, and even he should not face the courts, or he should not be answerable to any institution, I think it will not favor him. And it is in his interest also.
Something that Mustafa Saab mentioned right now, I think it's interesting. He's saying that, is it a possibility, in your opinion, at this time for the provincial assemblies of KP and Punjab to be restored? Do you think that if it goes down, if that happens and status quo is restored, perhaps there will be some kind of, it will be an option for dialogue, or it will happen pursuant to dialogue, or whatever the way it looks like it might work?
Mahrukh, I agree with Mustafa that this is one of the options, and such option should be considered very carefully, because even Chief Justice himself mentioned that on Monday he is predicting some positive action, some positive scenario. And I think if those assemblies are restored, there is one option, and the options like that should be, because at present the election commission says that they are not in a position to conduct election. Even otherwise, you see that rangers cannot provide the personnel. So that and the election, the overall election should be at one time. If the provincial elections will be on different time and the federal election will be on different time, not only the matter of expenses, but also that at that time which government is in power, and that election's result will not be acceptable to all the parties. There should be, I think, the only option, and it should be like that, and I feel it is going to be held. There is no other option. Otherwise, there may be a third option there, and the things will out of hand of the political party. And we all our leaders, the political leaders, should lessen their ego. They should be ready to have negotiation. And Imran Khan, as PTI, they always insisted, and we have been advocating to them since 5-6 years, to Charter of Economy and to other forums also, to come to have a negotiation, to talk, and without having discussion, if he feels, Imran Khan or his party feels that the judiciary will give him the results which he desires, I think it is not like that. He would have to come on the political forums, because he is a head of a political party, and otherwise PTI is a political party, and they are our colleagues and friends. They have been with us. So if they have some point, they should come forward to discuss that matter and to negotiate that matter. We feel at present they are reluctant to even come forward to the courts. They are, even the Soshakana case, they are avoiding that case. Even when some people go to arrest him, he is gathering a lot of huge public with him. Any political leader can do like that, but if things like that prevail, I think there will be no outcome of it. and things will not be improving and going to
Irfan Saab, can you hear me? Irfan Saab, on the one hand, we do talk about there being talks, and we talk about the fact that there should be some political dialogue and all of those things. If this situation is restored in this manner, and indeed we look at the provincial assemblies being restored, do you think it will also see the return of the PTI in the National Assembly?
Mahrukh, I think it's a very big, big if. And actually the matter is that we have the two representatives of big parties here in the panel, and they all have been saying, both of them, they have been saying that dialogue is the way. And the situation that we have been seeing now, that is the result of years to go back. Many cases of political nature, they had been coming to the courts. If the politicians would have shown maturity and they would have resolved the political issues within their own forums, then these cases would not have landed here. And then, when it comes to...
isn't it, it's not about, is it really just about the politicians for the sake of argument resolving the issues themselves? Because again, of course, we have seen the courts say again and again, don't come to us with political problems. When politicians come to the courts with political problems, they invariably have no choice but to adjudicate. And then it lands them in this kind of a problem where it either pleases one party, displeases the other, and then this controversiality starts. Isn't that true?
I totally agree with you, Mahrukh. And more than that, when on the daily basis we see that the politicians and their representatives, they openly declare their favorites within the judges. That is something which makes the matter even worse. And when we already have all other institutions, they have been they have become so controversial. In such a situation like this, we have landed in a situation like this where we don't know where to go, and ultimately, as the Chief Justice, the Honorable Chief Justice has mentioned, maybe on Monday we have to see what he comes up with, but most likely that which he has hinted. One option was that he said in one of the remarks that he can give time to the political parties to resolve the issue. But again, the other side, PTI, it depends how serious they are, because even today they have threatened that if
protests. Nationwide protests again.
Yes, nationwide protest and all that. In such a situation where we have our economy is in such a state that we are almost at the verge of default. Then inflation is 35% inflation. That is the official figure that came today, which is highest since 1965. So, in such a situation, it's the people of Pakistan who are looking towards their representatives, and when these representatives, they would not be able to resolve these things, and when they will be entangled in
don't you feel, of course, on the one hand we have a prime minister who's, we talk about wheat distribution, we talk about trying to deal with the issues as far as economy is concerned, all of those things. On the other hand, it doesn't look like, of course elections are extremely important, but do you think that it's really that big an issue for the average person at this time?
Mahrukh, election is actually is one aspect of democracy and one aspect of the whole process. But when we see that when it comes to delivering to the masses, when we see that the difficulties that the people have been facing, over the last few years, if you see the tenure of the previous government, the PTI government and this coalition government, when you go to the masses and you ask them, even the middle class, the people who are considered middle class, now they are at the verge of poverty. So this is the situation, and in such a situation, as one of our panelists has mentioned, that we, God forbid that a situation comes down where no, it's not in the hands of any of the political parties, and then in that situation, I think all of them would be losers.
Right, fair enough. Let me come back to you. Mustafa, on the one hand, of course, we're asking whether the court is going to intervene, whether it's going to encourage talks between the political parties. But on the other hand, isn't it true that as far as the courts are concerned, they have to act within whatever the law says, within the ambit of law, and that should be the purview, that should be the ambit within which they exercise their power. Why should it become important? Why should they encourage talks? Why should, that's also an argument, right? I mean, that's for the government. That's for, they're not the arbiters of the political process, or are they?
True, but in this case, it's a different thing because it was a suo motu case.
Okay.
The Chief Justice, Honorable Chief Justice, has taken a suo motu in this regard. So definitely now the the conversation and all the debates would be held in his court. So I think the main question, the prime question, which I think the Chief Justice should ask and should have asked earlier, that why both the assemblies were dissolved, and on the wish of one person, who is Imran Khan.
But should he be asking? I mean, it's about the legality.
Neither he is the Chief Minister of KP, neither he was the Chief Minister of Punjab. And with his one order, both assemblies were dissolved. I mean, this is not democracy. So this question, if it would have been raised in the Honorable Court, then I think things would have been much clearer. But
his party as had the majority members, and they decided to dissolve the assembly.
True, it's a right, but knowingly that the elections are, general elections are just months away, then what was the rush? What was the hurry? I mean that's a very tricky thing to understand, that why was he in a haste to maybe he was thinking that he is currently more popular, maybe later in few months he won't be that popular. So that was something going in his mind, or maybe somebody influenced him for this decision, but that decision has brought the country towards this position where we are like we are confused what to do, either sort out the economy or sort out this constitutional issue. So I think so it's nobody's is responsible for this except Imran Khan.
But regardless of what happens as far as the elections are concerned, you have a law now in Parliament that is going to effectively change the powers of the Supreme Court, CJ, to take suo motu. That law, of course, also can then be taken to Supreme Court. And there can be, of course, some adjudication on that. The Supreme Court will eventually have to decide on that also. In that kind of an environment overall, there needs to be the issues of Supreme Court in any case now have to be dealt with. Would you agree?
Mahrukh, why this issue came in Parliament? Because we were only concerning about 90 days time period. We were not talking about if elections are held in 90 days and if in general elections any XYZ party gets in power in both the provinces, then whether the general elections would be fair and free. I don't think so.
Okay.
So that was a question, that was something which nobody was talking about.
But in other parts of the world, they are held, they have been held in peace.
But that's in their constitution. In our constitution, it's about like there is a caretaker system, there is a free and fair concept of elections.
But so isn't it true that the caretaker system has to stay for 90 days?
That's also true. So that's something is like we're like locked in this position that neither the
there needs to be some clarity. There needs to be some direction that has to come.
There needs to be some direction, but we need to go to the root cause. Mahrukh, again, I would say that why were both these assemblies were dissolved? I think so. If you go there and if we sort out from there, then the issue would be solved.
Okay, let me go to Qaisar Sahab. Qaisar Sahab, do you think the root of the problem is that why were the assemblies dissolved? Whether we go back to them or not, the issues within the Supreme Court. At this time, this has opened a Pandora's box within the Supreme Court. It's also exposed certain vulnerabilities within the Supreme Court. Do you agree to that?
Yes, of course. You see, the bench was dismembered twice. 7-member bench then reduced to 5 and then to 3. So this is within difference of opinion, and I think this is a crucial part. And there should be unanimity, because now the being deferred. So I still feel that the Chief, Chief Justice himself mentioned on Monday he is seeing something positive, and I think this is the only solution. The the law has been now passed by National Assembly and also by the Senate, and now lying with the President of that there two motto should be with the three member chief justice, the senior chief justice, and also we appeal to the show motor cases. So things are quite interesting, and I feel that at present, you see, the elections are not going to be feasible because of the financial situation of the country, because of the political turmoil,
Okay, Sab,
and
let me come back to you. I
held
think there's a problem with
1970.
audio. I'll just come back
The
to you.
outcome of
Ji,
election 1970.
Irfan Sab, can you hear me? Ji, Irfan Sab?
Gigi,
Irfan
I'm
Sab,
there.
we are looking. I was trying to talk. Qaisar Sab was answering this question as far as our overall issues within the Supreme Court are concerned. Regardless of politics, if we leave that aside for a second, overall, this whole issue has exposed issues within the Supreme Court. How do you think that's going to? I mean, how does the Chief Justice deal with what the situation is at this time in the Supreme Court? I think there's no secret about the division that we see at this time. Do you think there's going to be considerable changes there? How do you look at overall the situation as far as the Supreme Court is concerned?
Mahrukh, this issue that had been raised earlier as well, especially the suo moto powers and the way the suo moto powers were exercised, and similarly the constitution of benches, the chief justice, the discretion of chief justice in constituting the benches. This issue has been there the past as well, but now it has become very much evident, and you must have seen. Last week, two judges of the Supreme Court, they also openly they have questioned that. So that issue was there, and in the current situation, it has become more evident. But in all that, the thing is that our panelists, they were mentioning that it's Imran Khan who is responsible, but the thing is, it's not only him. It would have been, when it comes to dissolving the Punjab Assembly and KPK Assembly, it would have been, for example, People's Party or PML-N. They were in the same situation like Imran Khan. They might have done the same. And dissolving an assembly, it's something, the chief minister, they can do it. And if that was done, these political parties, they could have challenged it in the court, and they could have, got that adjudication, that matter adjudicated before. The thing is, it's actually the trust deficit. It's the trust deficit between the political parties. As you said, that there in many countries, the provincial elections, the state elections, and the general elections, they are held at different points of times. But in our system, it's become so controversial that the administration, the way the administration is used, and and the police and the other, the relevant authorities.
What Nawaz Sharif Saab said yesterday, also when the PML-N says, and Maryam Nawaz has also said that when we look at elections at this time, how will you accept the results? Any party accept the results if we do hold them in this piecemeal fashion, when already there's so much acrimony, so much bad blood, so to speak, between political parties at this time?
Yes, that's right. That this is actually, none of the political parties, especially, the PTI and the government, the component parties in the government, none of them, they are ready to accept, each other, and not only each other, but their mandate. In such a situation, it's otherwise this would have been a very simple case. That in Constitution, it's clearly mentioned that if the assemblies are any of the assembly, it is dissolved. Before the the mature time before the completion of its tenure. The elections are held within 90 days, and if they complete the tenure, then in that case it's in 60 days.
But isn't it true that it started from Imran Khan Sahab asking his people to, I mean, you know, the way that it started, asking his people to resign from the National Assembly. I mean, it's a kind of politics. The style of politics is very much aggressive, and you know, it's not a welcoming kind of environment for a working relationship when you ask your people to resign from the National Assembly, walk out. That's the exclusion of your party and your people from the political process. And that's how it started, and eventually it resulted in his asking the KP and Punjab assemblies to resign, to which, you know, by all accounts it says that his own chief minister, if we talk about Punjab, Chaudhry Parvez Elahi, was against this and categorically made his opinion known to the former prime minister, and you know, that's why it resulted in a delay, but invariably his opinion and his instructions prevailed.
Yes, Mahrukh, yes, you can debate on that. You can debate on that. You can debate on ways, his way of politics. In politics, you know, it's always, you know, you engage with, even when he was in government, he was not ready to talk to the opposition, which is something, you know, very odd in for a politician. That the politicians, they always keep their doors open. That is his way of politics. You can argue on that. But what I'm saying is that if there would have been, we would not have come to this point where we don't have any institution now left which we can trust as a whole. When I say we, I mean the political parties. When it comes to election commission, it has become controversial. Even the armed forces, they have become controversial. And then it was, you know, the judiciary, which was in such a situation, you know, it was a check on the executive and the, you know, legislature. That is a constitutional check, and when it has become so controversial, that is the extent of the crisis that we have been facing.
But is it one? Let me come back to you, Mustafa. Is it true that, you know, who do you hold responsible for making these institutions so? What would one say? You know, they're politicized. They're you know, there doesn't seem to be, they're controversial. What can one call it?
Who has made all these institutions controversial? It was Imran Khan who dragged all these institutions for his personal interest. Be it election commission, be it honorable judiciary. He used to name the judges if they give decisions against him. Then we have seen how he has been with with the institutions, and we can't just rewrite our constitution for the interest of one person who is Imran Khan, because he's not liking certain things, because he wants elections right now, because he wants decisions on his in his favor. So we can't do all that. There is a country, there is a constitution, there is law, there is a judiciary. So everybody has to play their role in that, and we can't just just for the love of Imran Khan, and they can just do anything what favors him. That's not going to happen.
But Mustafa Sahib, he says he's very popular.
Even Hitler used to say that he was popular. So I would say that if he thinks, then it's up to him and his followers. But again, I would say, Mahrukh, it's easy to blame the politicians. It's easy to blame the parties.
Okay.
But the recent abdication from the suo motu was not from the political parties. It was within the judiciary. The honorable judges abdicated themselves from
Mustafa,
this
then there
controversial
is that
case.
argument that suo motus have been taken in the past also.
Yes, but we haven't seen such kind of dissenting notes in the suo motu cases.
That is true, and the way that they've come out very publicly.
Yes,
that is true.
So that's the dilemma, and I think so that a full bench is a need of the hour, and it's a demand from the government. It's a demand from the people of Pakistan, because definitely the decision will affect them, and I think so if the three-member bench will give that decision, and if the decision would be as per the wishes of Imran Khan, then it would be very difficult for the government to implement, because the executive has to implement.
Unfortunately, that's all the time that we have. Thank you so much for being with us, Mustafa Baloch. Thank you for joining us. Qaisar Ahmad Sheikh, thank you for being with us today. Irfan Ghouri, thank you for joining us. Overall, of course, we will know what happens on Monday as to the decision and the way that this case will proceed further by the 3-member bench. But at this time, of course, it's no secret that it seems the only solution forward is some kind of dialogue between the political parties. Whether that will happen, whether there will be perhaps a restoration of the assemblies status quo at one time, still remains to be seen. Whether that's still a legal option or not, all those are important questions. But also very important is the issues that it is exposed within the Supreme Court, and how the judiciary would deal with those issues, those fissures that unfortunately have become apparent for all to see. Thank you so much for joining us today on Perspective.